Bonjour, everybody. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network, and you are watching Star Nations Communications from Home. Yep, it's true. I'm usually on Tuesday nights, but we have a special show this afternoon. It is Sunday, January 21st, and we're doing a special show because my guest, my co-host, I'm going to call him, it lives across the pond in England. And so in order for both of us to have a decent time to do this, we had to do it in the afternoon. So for him, it's 8 o'clock in the evening. And for us over here in central Wisconsin, or central part of the United States in Wisconsin, it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to be with us. And if you wouldn't mind, because this is a really important show. This is a topic that I think one of those things that I'm going to be talking a lot about this year, because, every year it seems that we would pick out a specific topic to kind of gather around and make it kind of like a central point. And one year it was healing the warrior's heart. Another year it was domestic violence. Another year it was suicide, teenage suicide. And so this year, I have a feeling that we're going to be talking a lot about caregiving, whether you're caregiving for an elderly parent, an elderly relative, a disabled child, a spouse. We're going to be talking about caregivers a lot this year, I think. So with that said, if you wouldn't mind liking and sharing the broadcast so that we have time for people to join us, okay? And Albert, hi, Albert. Thanks for joining us. He's asking what the topic is. The topic is caregiving for elderly parents. Both my guest and I that's something that we have in common. And so we would like to talk about it and share some of the tips that we have learned along the way, and also to give some information. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the broadcast, I would appreciate it, because I'm going to do the same thing. I've got my phone. I'm liking, and I am sharing. And I'm going to share it to my timeline, I think. No, I'm going to share it to the closed group for the radio, if I can get it to come up. There we go. Groups, radio network. And I'm going to say we're live streaming. Right now. How about joining us? All right. And then we'll post that. There we go. There. So thanks for coming. And I'm going to introduce my guest. Actually, I'm going to call him my co-host. I have with me today, this evening, is Mervyn Kelly. Hi, Mervyn.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
So, now, some of you might recognize this guy. This guy, Mervyn, he is one of the co-hosts for Star Nations Radio Network show From Star to Stone. And that is on the third Tuesday in the morning. Second Tuesday. At 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern, and
2 p.m. GMT.
2 p.m. GMT. Thank you. And, one of the things that gave the idea for this particular special show is one day, Mervyn and I this was a while ago, we were working on some technical issues using Be Live and audio stuff. And we were trying to, work out a solution to a situation. And we did. But along the way, I don't know if you remember this, Mervyn, it took us over an hour. And there was a I thought it was a telephone call or something that you were getting, and it was a beeping, or it was a buzzing of some sort. And I said, "Do you need to get that?" And you said, "Oh yeah, in just a second. That's my mom." And I said, "Oh, okay." And at first I thought it was a telephone call, right? And we worked a little bit more, and you said, I really have to go and see what she needs. And I thought, she's with him. And you said yes. And I said, perfect. Because I have to run upstairs and help my mom give her her snack at 3 p.m. because she has blood glucose issues. And so we took off to take care of our moms, keeping the live, our meeting going on Be Live, and came back and finished what we were doing. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, there's another person who knows what this is like and understands that I had to step away in order to go take care of something and come back. And so that started the idea, the concept for this show. And, it does something, I think, at least it did for me, to realize that there's somebody in my community, in my group, that is doing the same thing that I am. And there's not that many in our group that's doing that. There's some that have had the experience but aren't currently taking care of a parent. So thank you, Mervyn, for one, letting me know that you were taking care of your mom, and two, making time to be here for this show.
Well, it's my pleasure. Completely my pleasure.
Aw. And as I was preparing for the show, there's a couple things that I found, and I realized early on that I didn't want the show to be about numbers and statistics and that sort of thing.
Hello, Carla.
Yeah, Carla Joe. Carla Joe is in the house here. Let me hide that other thing and get up there.
This is going to be great because I'm not pressing buttons for today, so everything's going to go fine.
Hi, Carla Joe. Thank you for joining us. We also have Sonyas in the house too. Hi, Sonia. Good to have you here with us. Thank you so much for being with us. And Albert, I didn't show you before, but here you go. There's Albert. He wanted to know what the topic was. So here's a number. Here's a number. Approximately 4.3 million caregivers have unpaid care for an adult. They're working on behalf of somebody caregiving for them. And this is in 2015. That's a big number. That's a big number. 65% of care recipients are female. So 65%, and this is in the United States. So 65% of that 43.5 million are female. And 75% of all caregivers are female. There are, where's that other number? There was like 43.5 that were male caregivers out of that number. And if your parent is living in your house, the person that you're taking care of is living in your house, it's considered to be like 41.5 hours of care a week.
Is that all?
Is that all?
It's
I know.
not.
That's a part-time job only, they're saying.
Yeah, that doesn't cover it one little bit.
No. I think they're only taking the daytime hours. They're not including the nighttime when you get woken up and you have to head downstairs to find out what's going on. That's right. So I really did want to spend a lot of time on those numbers, because the only reason I even brought them up, audience, is because it's a large number. And out of that large number, I wanted to kind of dial it in and say, those numbers are important, but what's more important is that each one of those numbers represents a real person. Whether they're the person receiving the care, or whether you are the number that represents us, the caregivers. And that it's real people, it's real lives. And so when we talk about those large numbers, it's only gotten larger. The 2018 numbers aren't out yet because we just started. 2017 numbers aren't quite out yet because it takes a while for them to, all those statistical people, to boil down all those numbers so that we can take a look at it and say things like Mervyn said, that's not quite true. That's not quite true. So, excuse me, there's being a caregiver of an elderly parent changes your life, changes your lifestyle. Whether that, especially if that parent lives in your home with you, or if that parent lives in assisted living someplace, because you're still doing things on behalf of that parent, and it changes your lifestyle. It changes your priorities. It changes a lot, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Changes everything.
Yeah. So, Mervyn, how old is your mom, and how long have you been a caregiver for her?
She is now 84. She was 84 in December. And I have been taking care of her for quite a few years now. Quite a few years. And I won't bore you with the whole long story of it, but she needed it, with parents of whatever age, when they're getting on, you can, how do I put this without being mean? Depending on who you are, you will see what's happening. You will feel it. And then you know what you have to do. You know that, oh, mum is just not having a good day. I'll go around. You know, what I'm trying to say is it's a gradual process.
Yes.
And, you know, then comes the day that you realise that she needs to be taken care of properly, fully. This was for my case, that she can't physically do things for herself.
Right.
There are, I mean, I'm not talking about, should we say, the intimate things like washing and so on and so forth, but for you know, just day-to-day living, she hasn't got the physical strength or ability to do anything anymore. That's it. And you know, this is another thing that about caregiving, being a caregiver, is there is another side to it where the person having the care feels frustrated and can feel somewhat guilty that they need the care.
Right.
So, you know, it's a double-sided coin.
Yeah.
As if there was only one-sided coin. But
there's also the edge too of that coin.
Okay, so there's three sides.
Yeah. Because you know what I call the edge of that coin? Because you're right. There's the caregiver side. There's the person receiving the care and all the emotions and everything that goes on with both of those people. But on the edge of that coin is what I call the in-between. This, you know, the things that you know, that you both notice, but you don't talk about. Those things that you might both be thinking, but you don't really say. And at some point, those things end up on one side or the other of the coin. For instance, recently I had a discussion with my mother because of the changes that were happening in my career in Star Nations. Things have to shift here. And she knew something was up, because I don't share everything with her, because, you know, that's not her. She should have a peaceful enjoyable life. She deserves that. She put in a lot for us to keep our family together, right? So I don't necessarily share everything with her, but I went into her space, her room, and was giving her some tea. And she says, I need to talk to you. Okay. So I sit down and I wait for her. And let me tell you, you never rush an elder. They think they're going at lightning speed and you're waiting.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so, I'm waiting. And she says, I have to talk to you about something that's kind of difficult. And I said, what's that? And she said, something's wrong. Something's wrong, and I want to know what it is. And don't try to spare me. Tell me what it is. She says, I can handle anything as long as I know it's coming at me. And so I had to tell her a little bit about what was going on. And I said, and things have to change a bit. We have to have more help coming into the home. And she's kind of, it's a hard thing for her to trust. And so having somebody else come into the home means that she has to begin to learn how to trust this other person, right?
Yeah.
And so it puts a lot of things that she was thinking about and feeling, and it brought it to the table and said, so we had to talk about that. And so we end up as caregivers, we end up having difficult conversations that maybe siblings of ours who aren't primary caregivers don't necessarily have those conversations. And so that's what I call the edge of that coin, is that in-between spot of things that are there. And eventually they do come to one side or the other of the coin. And in this case, it was mom's side of the coin that she wanted to know. She wanted to know what was happening. So, that's. Hey, Del Marie's in the house. Hi, Del Marie. Here we go. So glad you could join us. Thank you.
Hello, Del Marie.
Yeah. So when you decided this is a hard question. How did you decide to, because you're right, there's a time frame when, because after my dad walked on, after he passed away, my mom went to live in an assisted living because that's what she wanted to do for not quite 2 years. I was down there maybe 3 or 4 times a month. And I was starting to see things that weren't good, like expired food in the refrigerator, laundry not done, things that it was hard for her to lift things. And so things got put in positions where she didn't necessarily have to lift them, and they didn't really quite make sense to an outside person, right? So those are the telltale signs for me that something had to change. For you, what was that, and how did you make that decision?
Well, again, cutting a long story very short, and this is another thing that caregivers have to consider. Consider might be the wrong word, but it's the only one that I've got in my head at the moment.
Okay.
But anyway, the story goes that many years ago, I was in a relationship with somebody. I wasn't living here then. And so I assisted her with taking care of her mum until she passed. And then, but my mum, I mean, I was here every week doing things, visiting, and so on and so forth. But it became very apparent, very quickly that the same level of consideration that I wanted to take care of my mum wasn't forthcoming.
Yeah.
and that caused many issues, many problems. I won't go through all of it because you don't need to know. But ultimately, that relationship ended. I came here, and I take care of my mum. That's it. The decision wasn't really a decision because, to me, from my mind, she's my mum. I'm going to take care of her. I'm not making a decision. It feels natural. I mean, we see many people in the same situation, many elderly in the same situation, in varying qualities of old people's homes and care homes and so on and so forth. And to me, that doesn't work unless they really need proper medical care. If that's not the case, if they don't need medical care, then it's a family thing. You don't push people away just because they're getting old and they can't take care of you like they did, because you have to take care of them.
Right.
It's more of a tribal mentality in my head, in a way, because as I understand it, and my understanding can be completely wrong, but when we were more tribal communities, the elderly looked after the little ones, and because they had the knowledge and the wisdom to teach them, and the parents would do the day-to-day work of whatever was needed to be done, and everybody lived together. And when the older ones needed more care, they got it within the family, and that, to me, feels right.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And for you, for a tribal, that would be how many hundreds of years?
Oh, thousands.
And you still carry that in your blood and in your bones, right?
Yeah, it feels natural. It feels natural. That's the natural way to me, and I can't put it any differently.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that you said in there was whether it's a decision or whether you call it a decision, or if you call it an evolution of what you feel is natural, right?
Yeah.
At some point, it's conscious.
Yes.
This is what I'm doing.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Because generally speaking, and I don't want to make it so broad that it encompasses everybody, because inevitably somebody's going to be the difference in there, right? But generally speaking, is that as a caregiver, you just don't by happenstance fall into it.
No.
I'm not saying it's not a part of your spiritual path or your earth walk, or your life, your soul contract. What I am saying, though, is that on a conscious level, on a physically conscious level, it just doesn't out of the blue happen to you. There's things that leads up to it, and there's a point in time when I believe that you have to make a decision. You have to decide, am I doing this? Am I not doing this? And then you make the decision.
Yeah, you do, and if you can voice that, even if only to yourself, that I'm going to commit myself to doing this because it is necessary, and I feel it is right for me to do this, then yes, it does happen. I suppose it didn't happen quite so. I wasn't quite so clear as saying it like that, but that was the gist of it for myself, definitely.
Yeah. And and for me, taking care of parents has been specifically since 2008 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's before my dad was still alive, and his health was kind of going downhill. All the doctor's appointments, the the Veterans Administration appointments, those kinds of things. That started back then. So I've been kind of at this for almost a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my dad passed away, when he walked on, and things changed for my mom, I remember sitting around my dining room table with my brothers. At least I have 4 brothers, and so at least 2 of my brothers. And we were talking about this, about the possibility of mom's life changing and how that's going to change. And I remember sitting there and saying, well, culturally,
Yeah.
I'm it, because I'm the daughter, the only one. I wish I had a sister. The only one. And so there's some things that are just going to, as you say, naturally fall to me, because of that is my mother's belief system. Now, that's kind of how that went, and we talked about it, and what. Needless to say, it was a plan that looked good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They all
it
look
doesn't
good on
always
paper.
necessarily play out that way in real life. Because one of the things, Mervyn, is that wouldn't you agree that being a caregiver and having the person you're caring for as a member of your home, in your family, your home, because they are family, but physically in your home, you're not going someplace else to take care of them and then coming back. They're in the same building with you. That having that situation, and when you decide to do this caregiving, not only does it change your lifestyle and it changes your life, but it stretches you. It challenges your belief systems, and it doesn't matter what they are. It could be, your belief system could be a part of, maybe the Catholic religion. It's going to challenge those beliefs. It could be Native American traditional religion. You could be a member of the Medicine Lodge. It's going to challenge your belief system. You could be an atheist, and it's going to challenge your belief systems. Would you agree with me on that?
Completely. Absolutely, completely, because there is you absolutely know that at some point this situation is going to change. We don't talk about that because you just can't. You can't think about it. I'm not even talking about it now. We know what I'm talking about, but I'm not saying it. So you can't look at it. You can't think about it. You can't look at it. You have to deal with what is needed right now.
Yep.
What may be needed in the next hour, tomorrow. After that, you just don't think any further ahead. So, and if you, and no matter what you do within that, there will always come a point when you just let it slip and you go, your mind automatically will go to that point, and you just don't know after that. You just don't know what you're going to do, what you're going to be, what you're going to think, how you're going to feel. You don't know anything beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, like you say, no matter what you believe, that's a big challenge. And even though I've seen what I've seen, I know what I know, and I've seen some proof, shall we say, of what comes next. That doesn't matter, because you're so close to it.
Yeah.
You're so close to it, and it's not yourself. It doesn't matter. If it was yourself, you wouldn't really be bothered. You'd be okay.
Yeah.
But because it's this other person, you're investing so much time and energy and effort and everything within that it does become your life. It really does. It does become your life. So you can't look. You will be challenged in many ways, not just at that point, but all the way.
Everything.
Everything. But what it will also do, the blessings and gifts and knowledge and joy and all that stuff is so immense.
Yeah.
That you just can't explain it. You can't explain. The only thing that I can say that would even come close is to say that when you do this, it will teach you who you are.
Who you really are.
Who you really are.
Very core.
Yes.
Yep.
Because you are giving from your very core. You can't do this half-heartedly.
Oh.
You just can't do it. It's all or nothing.
And a lot of people in your life won't understand that. No, they. I mean, how many times have I been called a helicopter daughter? How many times have I been called obsessed? Enmeshed is another one. But some people don't understand that for whatever reason, and they have their own reasons too.
Yeah, but
and I've said that you've heard me on radio shows and in some of the discussion you and I've had chats, is that you're surprised at who turns around and walks away. Who doesn't want to understand that you just can't go out to dinner with them because they're ready to go. That you can't go on a trip. Not that you can't, but it's just that this just takes so much to plan that you just can't just decide. Tomorrow I'm going to go somewhere, do something. It takes effort, a lot of energy to figure out how the support system is going to be around your mom while you're gone.
Yeah. Would you like to go out to dinner? Yeah, get back to me in 6 months. I'll have it planned.
much less go out of town. Come on. It takes me a month and a half to figure out, to negotiate, cajole.
Yeah.
People who should be, I think, and this is, here's a judgment. Sorry, guys. But, people who should be stopping in and saying, why don't you go to the movies? I got this. I'll do supper. I've got one free weekend. I can, I'm there. Never happens.
No.
Never.
I've got 2 sisters. Sorry to interrupt. I have 2 sisters. And this is another thing that I found with people that I've sort of met along the way, little by little. Because my mum's sister, my Auntie Angela, she looked after my gran as well, at home. And in other situations that people have revealed that they they take care of their parents or parent, and so on and so forth. It normally falls to the youngest as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. But that's fine. That's okay. That doesn't. That's it. It does seem to fall that way, but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, like as I digressed. Where was I? Oh yeah, two sisters. I have two sisters, and one lives in Manchester, which is 3 to 3.5 hours drive. Okay, and the other one moved to Spain.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but it's like I totally get the face. I totally get the tone. I know. Okay. They have their own lives to live. I get that. I understand. I do. And then the caveat is I thought we were in this together.
No.
And that's me. That was my illusion. That was, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but I did find it a little funny. To Spain.
Yeah, I mean this, but there is another side to this. There is another side to it, as there always is. I can do this. It's in me. It was always in me. It's not in my sisters. It's not to say that they're uncaring. They are themselves, and I'm not trying to be disparaging towards them.
They care in a different way.
Yes, but they can't take care.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I understand, and I'm okay with that as well. But there does come a point. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that I also think that, and I've come to this conclusion just by observation and trying to listen better to my brothers and some other relatives, is that when you're caring for somebody who is in an advanced age, and they now term people of my mother's age as super elders, because there's very little known about her age and older when it comes to a lot of things, right? But what I found is that they're afraid to be here. Literally have a fear that when she's in their care is when she's going to pass away, when she's going to walk on, and they don't want to deal with that. They run the opposite direction, and to the point where I even made sure that they have a program called palliative care. It's one step above hospice.
Yeah, and
with them, there's certain they help you with certain things, so that when that time comes, is that there's certain steps that you can follow. It's actually written out. Do this, do that, call there, and so we actually put that together so that I was hoping that they would feel more comfortable with it. And the opposite happened. So that's one thing and I understand that. I have some compassion for that. I do. We have lots of people. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have a couple people, several people here that have commented, and I just want to make sure we hit these. Here is Del Marie. She's saying, just thinking about my grandma and why she chose my father to be the caretaker, and thinking about my mother, I believe it was trust issue as where they feel safe and who will be the best caretaker for them. I think that's true. I do.
Yeah, it is very true. But I would also add to that I think I don't think it's not necessarily a choice. I think they already know. I think it's already there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think trust is a big issue there. It really is.
They do need to trust.
You
You
feel
do need
safe.
to trust.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Big one. And I can honestly say that this is probably the one time in my mom's life that she has felt as safe as she does. Not that my dad was a bad man or anything like that, but he wasn't around a lot, especially when we were growing up. He was working. And so she ended up raising us pretty much by herself a lot of times. And so, for her to feel safe, I actually told her that. I actually said it out loud, that you're safe.
Yeah, Mum said that. Mum said that to me as well. Mm-hmm. She knows that. She's said quite a few things over the years. In various ways, with lots of different words, but they all mean the same thing. She's comfortable and she's safe, and she knows that she's not alone.
Yeah. And Jill is saying it's because it's hard. Well, yeah, that's true. And can't deny it. It's right there. Annie. Hi, Annie. Anne Marie. Anne Marie says, that's funny, Neshi. If you remember my family, and I do, I have told my younger siblings for decades that they get our mom and I will take care of dad. Which is nice. It really is that you can, you identify that. The hard part, unfortunately, Anne Marie, is because when you're actually in it, it may not always work out the way that you thought it was going to. For instance, I had both my mom and dad because I thought my brothers were going to take care of my dad, and that didn't quite work. So, and Pam saying, I've been there too, Mervyn, and my sisters would agree that I was the one to do the home care. She was the favorite, but I was the patient one. My dad lived with us for 2.5 years. Now there's a big word in there, patience, because that's what I don't know. Do you have a morning mantra or something? Because I do. First of all, when the alarm goes off, I sit up and I sit there for a second, trying to figure out what day it is, because every day is almost exactly the same. And then it depends on whether it's mom's shower day or not, and what food she likes to have on a given day.
Mm-hmm.
Then I figure out what day it is. Yeah. And then I say a prayer for myself. Please, Mauna, give me the strength, the courage, and the kindness needed for today. That I have a loving heart and that the words that I speak are kind. So, and it's specifically for my mom, but let me tell you, it also helps in other situations too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't know if you have one or not, but that's mine, and it's almost the same every morning.
Yeah, some mornings I wake up and I can't even remember my own name. That's an exaggeration, I admit, but some days,
it might be an exaggeration, but it's pretty darn close to the
truth. I still have to work 3 days a week, doing the old, driving around in the old trucks, and that's okay. I never had a career path planned, and this is just what I fell into, and this is what pays the bills. So, and I managed to make it work for 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And so, it's an early start, but I always get home for the night. I'm never out any longer than the day. And they can be long days and so on and so forth. And so, which is one of the reasons why you're doing it on a Sunday. Thank you very much, because I have to be up. Let's just, for the sake of argument, this would be Tuesday. I would have to be up by 3:30 on Wednesday morning to get ready to go to work, to be at work for 5:30. And depending on the day, depending on the time of year, it can be anywhere up till 8:30, 9:30 at night when I get back in. So it's a long day. And then whatever mum needs at that time, and so on and so forth. But everything's ready, everything's done for her, and she's not having to wander around and do stuff. But anyway, so there are times, and this week's been one of those times, this past week, where so I've worked Wednesday, I'm off on a Thursday, and this Thursday I got up for work, got ready, got dressed, started getting everything prepared before I realised it was Thursday, and I didn't have to be up at 3:30. So yeah, it all gets a bit chaotic sometimes.
Well, Groundhog's Day, the movie, takes on a whole different perspective when you're a caregiver, because sometimes it is exactly like that. It's like, oh, wait a minute. And I have to admit, mornings aren't my favorite. I'm not at my best. I never was. I was never a morning person. And yet here I am having to be a morning person. And so it does take me a little bit to get into a better frame of mind before I come down the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And that is me. And that's what part of the stuff that we're talking about, that it challenges, it stretches you, it changes you. It's all good in the long run. Don't get me wrong, it is. It's just that when you're right in the middle of it, sometimes you don't see it because you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So here's one that Jill. Hi, Jill. Upstate New York, Jill. Jill says, I believe that neither of my parents wanted their kids to care for them for different reasons, I guess. I'm appreciating the deep heart level of this conversation. Well, you're welcome, Jill. And you're right. So most, I would say, from my parents' perspective, this is almost a direct quote. We don't want to be a burden.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. That's always none of them do.
No.
None of them do. But equally, from speaking for myself, which I always only speak for myself, and I'm quite confident that I would say that exactly the same for you, they're not a burden. It's not a burden. It's never, ever been that. It's difficult. It's a challenge, and life is crazy, and sometimes you don't know which way to turn, but it's never, ever been a burden.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, and honestly, I totally understand. I get it that that your individual choice, a person's individual choice on how to take care of an elderly parent could be in assisted living or in a nursing home, depending on, their situation. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that personally, because when my dad's medical situation was far more than I could handle at home. And so we had to do the nursing home. It was for the veterans. And, my oldest brother and I worked he did the paperwork side and working with that. And I worked with, was taking care of Dad. And so anyway, what happened is that I had to be the one to take him to the nursing home. I was the one that had to follow the because he went by ambulance, and sat in there while we were signing the final papers for all of that. I was the one that had to take him up to his room and then have to say, okay, I'll be back in a few days, and then walk out. Emotionally, it just
devastating.
Yep. And I know that with my mom, I know it could be selfish, but I can't put myself through that again.
No. And I mean, that's the thing. I dread the idea of doing that myself. Absolutely dread it. And again, it's something I don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think about it.
See what happens when you do? Your eyes.
Exactly, which is why I'm not doing it. So I'm being English and stoical. So just saying, stiff upper lip and all that
Uh-huh.
nonsense. Um, now you've made me forget where I was going with that.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So no, it's something again I don't think about. I know that it could be a possibility, but while I can, I will, and we'll take it one step and one day at a time.
That's all you can do. Really, that's all you can do. Um, those hard conversations, that my mom and I have had. At one time, she actually told me, she says, "But I don't have a future." I remember just sitting there looking at her and saying, I'm trying to take that in, Mom. I'm trying to be okay with that. But I do, and so it's we have to come to some compromise with this. And so it's really hard when they say things like that to hear
Yeah.
it, and to take it in. And there's one thing that I wanted to cover. You guys, I want to make sure we cover some of the people in the chat room too, because that's important. Carla Jo says, my younger sister was always Dad's favorite. He taught her to work on cars, and they are quite a bit alike. She's the one who keeps track of his doctor's appointments and checks on him, and every couple of weeks, a couple of times a week, she also works in town and doesn't need to make an extra trip. Yeah, and that's great. Why not? Carla Jo, all I'm saying is that from a caregiver's point of view, it's kind of nice when somebody else comes along and says, I'll take care of Dad's lunch today. I've got some free time, rather than the caregiver having to arrange it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
would take a little bit of the
pressure off.
Pressure. That's a good word. Pressure off. Just even if it was just even for an afternoon.
Yeah.
As long as the caregiver doesn't have to plan it, doesn't have to, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's that's another thing that we have to consider is ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves properly. We don't.
Carla Jo just said the same thing. Got to take care of yourself in order to take care of others.
Yes,
yep, that is so true.
But it doesn't really kind of work that way. Could I eat better? Yes, but I'm not cooking twice. So whatever Mum wants, I eat. That's it. And sometimes it's a matter of convenience, and sometimes it's actually quite not too bad. But equally, time is a big one, and I admit I am extremely lucky because in May in May I've got the Druid retreat, which is a few days away.
Mm-hmm.
And this time in August, I'll be back in Michigan. Mm. And what I do is I plan it. I plan it with Mum. I say, Mum, I want to do this. I'm going to do that. Okay, so and so. And then I ring my sister and say, I'm going on, these are my dates. This is happening. And to be fair, she is very good. And this year I'm over in August, which does make it a whole lot easier. A whole lot easier because my sister's a part-time teacher, so she hasn't got school, so there's no issues, no extra planning to be doing. So
that's good.
But I know how lucky I am to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Carl says I do when I can. It's hard to keep track of him as he is anyway. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. the primary caregiver is the primary caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that.
Yeah.
Other members of the family are not in the same position, and they do have their own responsibilities. And we don't, even though it might sound like it, we're kind of venting a little bit,
Just a little.
just a little bit, because we're allowed. We're human, so we're allowed.
Yeah.
But you know, and we're not asking for everything, and we're not asking it to be on a weekly, monthly, or even 6 monthly basis. We're just asking to say, just on an occasion, just say, I'll be over and this, I'll come and do this. You do, you just take 5 minutes for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Right.
So, and we know.
And to be fair to Carla Joe, is that it sounds like your dad is really, he just needs a little help. It's not like, he needs somebody there every day, all day. He just needs some help. With my mom, it went from when she first moved in, where she was making her own breakfast. If I was gone, she could make her own lunch. She was doing her own laundry. She was even ironing for herself. She'd keep herself pretty busy, during the day. Eventually, over time, it starts to change. Mm-hmm. And she's needing a little bit more help and a little bit more help and a little bit more help. Managing pain. And now, for the last 3 years, she can't cook for herself anymore. She probably could if she could stand for a longer period of time. So her needs have over time gotten more and more and more. And all I'm saying is that because we're here all the time, we see it, we're living it. Whereas our siblings who may not be here because they're living in Spain, they don't see everything. They don't see everything. They think that the last snapshot in their head, mom was doing this and she was doing good. Mm. And so they don't see the progression. And so if you're close enough and you're aware of the progression, sometimes just making that call and saying, you know what, I'm going to be in town. I thought I'd come over and spend some time with Dad. If you want to go take a nap or go shopping or do something, I'll be there on Tuesday at 2:00. It's something that she doesn't have to put together. It's something that she doesn't have to physically orchestrate. That's all I'm saying. And there was another piece to that. Dang, I hate that when I get on a soapbox and forget my next point.
Yeah, I mean, we're not throwing, we're not angry. We're not all these other things. He's 90, lives on his own, still drives trucks, and so on and so forth. So yeah, he's doing really well.
Yeah, he's doing really good. Yeah, but I want to make sure that people know, Mervyn, though, that we do get angry. We do get we do all those things, but it's not necessarily an everyday.
We're not consciously thinking about it every day. There's just some days we get so tired, and you've had a bad day that you just have to vent, and that's healthy because we can push things down quite a long way.
Yeah, for a long time too, which isn't healthy, and we all know that. We really do. And the part about taking care of yourself, oh my gosh, yes. That saying about you can't give from an empty cup. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first, the airplane thing. And as spiritual teachers and very consciously living our life from a spiritual point of view, we really do take that all in and understand it, but the actual physical doing sometimes doesn't happen because mom had a bad
day
Thursday morning. I now have to work in the evening for promotional stuff and things that have to be get written. All the stuff that I had to do during the day, I couldn't do because mom needed a little bit more attention. And so things kind of get moved around. And unfortunately, the 15 minutes that I thought I would have to go take a walk or to go sit outside or something evaporated. And before you know it, okay, supper time, cleanup time, bedtime. All right, now I can sit down and I can write my article. Now, that is just happens to be the truth. It's not like we say, I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to ask for help.
Yeah, the day rolls as it will roll. Yes.
Shoot. I was just going over I actually had notes, and we're doing pretty good. But we actually are at the full hour. If you don't mind, Mervyn, I'd like to just go just a little bit longer so we cover the last.
I'm super cool with that.
Okay, good. Thank you. There's two things actually that I want to make sure that we cover. And the first one is being an empath. Now, chances are that if you are a caregiver or you're going to be in a caregiver role at some point, chances are you're already an empath.
I would agree with that.
Chances are.
Even though I didn't realize it at the time.
Right.
But also, if you are, or let's just for the sake of argument, you're not, you will be. And if you already are, your empathic muscles will be stretched and strengthened and strengthened and strengthened. I mean, there's a thing that I've said that when I'm away, like when I was over in Michigan last year and so on and so forth, and my sister's taking care of things, Mum does okay. She knows that I know that she's not, it's not the same, but anyway, but what, I'm rambling. What I mean to say is, I am 10 steps ahead of what Mum wants, and my sister is 2 steps behind. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, so you will, it does get those empathic muscles working overtime.
You know, and just this piece of this show, the empathic piece, could probably be a show on its own. And we probably will do something like that. So I don't feel like we're rushing through it. Okay. But let's call this the intro to it. Because I really do believe this is that as an empath, when you know that you are, and you've been working to understand it and see it as the gift that it is, and then you become a caregiver, you've just entered into your PhD program as an empath and understanding that gift and learning how to not just live with it, but to apply it. And like Mervyn said, it is going to stretch every possible aspect of you as an empath. And depending on who you're taking care of, if it's your mom, think about this. You were with her in utero. You heard her heartbeat. You were a part of her physical body. As a spiritual being, your spirits were together. All right. And then now you're her caregiver when she's in her 80s, 90s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have this very strong connection, spiritual connection to this person. And then put the layer on there on empath. And that's why I said it's a PhD. You're just not mastering it. You're going after the PhD. and the thing is that if you weren't capable of it, I honestly believe that you wouldn't be the caregiver.
No.
You know, if you weren't capable. Now I have to say that, Mervyn, there's been days when I think, what the did I do? You know, how did I get here? I know exactly how I got there, but it's more rhetorical. And so as an empath, there's certain things that you can do to help yourself, I think. One of the things is to make sure that your chakras are cleared and you're balanced and you're grounded. Yep. And if you need extra help with that along the way, and I love that post, Mervyn, that you did the other day on From Star to Stone page about the special empath stones. I want to talk to you more.
That was Tracy posted that one. Yeah.
I want to talk to you more about that specifically after the show. But there's things that are out there that you already kind of know about, and you may even know a lot about, but to be able to fine tune it, to be able to use it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is slightly on the side of the empathic thing, and I don't know why I'm waving my hand like that because you can't even see it. Just to the side of being the empath and the empathic abilities that are strengthened, you will find that within that you will also be going. I mean, and I'll just explain some experiences that I've had. With learning Reiki. I mean, Mum gets Reiki whenever I want Reiki. I'll need Reiki today.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 84.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told her that I was going to learn Reiki, she said, "What's that?" So I told her, and she went, okay. But Mum could be the poster child for the effectiveness of Reiki. Mm-hmm. Tracy Civic sent her some crystals to help with the pain from the nerve damage that she's also got. I mean, Mum's got been through so much. One of the things that I would always say that my mother, I mean, I work with truck drivers who are supposed to be big, tough guys. Mm-hmm. My mother is tougher than all of them put together, including me. Yeah. Right, so anyway, it's got this. So I gave her these crystals. I said, "Tracy sent you these. What do I do with them?" "That's up to you, Mother." Mm-hmm. So she took to that as well. I mean, I've been working a lot with essential oils for pain and of various types and so on and so forth. So apart from the spiritual side of things, you will learn a lot of alternative therapies as well along the way, and that just doesn't help her because it spreads out.
Yes, it does.
Because somebody says, "Oh, my mum's this and that or whatever," and so on and so forth. You could try this, and you just rattle it off, and they'll go, "Really?" And you'll say, "Yeah, try it," and they'll try it, and they'll go, "That was amazing." So there's all that. I mean, also, Mum's fairly disabled. She can't. She has a lot of problems walking. She has a lot of problems with a lot of things, but I've found and again, this is only recently where a guy that I work with has been talking to me about his own, is it mother or mother-in-law? I'm not quite sure now, but either. And she's still living alone at the moment, as far as I can gather, but they're having a wet room done for the shower and the washroom and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was asking, so we were talking, and I gave him the website of a disability aids place over here where they can, whatever they need, it's there.
Yeah.
Another thing I did yesterday, no, on Friday. See, days run together, everybody. So, the information that you get, you are automatically going to share it out as well. So there's a big ripple effect that happens
Mm-hmm.
when you learn one thing. So lots of other people learn it as well.
Right. Because I think that's part of the reason why you're doing what you're doing, right? That's why I talked about the PhD, is that you're learning how to use the application. You're just not reading about it. You're not just sitting in a class someplace. You are doing it in the effects of it. You can see almost, I don't want to say immediately, but it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, experience is the greatest teacher of all.
Exactly. Now, the next thing I wanted to bring up, and again, this is probably just going to be an introduction because this could be its own show on itself. But for me, and a lot of other people, there's a cultural aspect to it. Being a Native American, and my mom is pretty much a traditionalist. There's certain things that my brothers can't do for her, that because I'm a female, that falls to me, right? And I understand that, and I have no problem with that. But from a traditional point of view, there's certain things that we have to take care of, and some of it has to do with spirits. And having a very active house with spirits. And so whether or not you have that belief system, chances are that there's some unexplained things going on and you think it's your imagination, but it's not. And I tell you what, if my mom and I don't talk about this topic at least a couple times a week, I'd be lying. It was probably even more than that. And so that the cultural aspect, and that one also kind of falls to this, Mervyn. I don't know how I'm going to say this, so I hope it comes out okay, is when you have people in your group and your friends, your family even, that don't quite understand why you're doing what you're doing and the way that you're doing it. They tell you, and I actually heard somebody say this on a radio show, one of our own radio shows, in fact, is that it's time to give up or not to do, things that were done in the past, that we're moving into a new age. And so some of those things don't work anymore. And so you have to learn how to do it a different way. And some of it I had to take in from my own perspective is like, all right, so when does a tradition such as taking care of your elderlies and their children that has been taught to you and taught to your family for generations after generation after generation, for thousands of years, does that change? And then from a traditional point of view, they're saying that This is the way it should be. Now, I'm not saying all Native Americans take care of their elderly people. They don't. Some people don't even take care of their children. So if you're looking at it from an ideal, it would be hard. It is hard for me to give up a belief that is so ingrained, not just from my generation, but from past generations, that to take care of your, as you said earlier, it's natural.
Exactly.
It's natural movement.
I
don't know if I even phrased that correctly, but that is a consideration.
I understand what you mean, but from my perspective, from my point of view, you don't give that up. You know, that's the. For me, it feels natural. It feels right. Over here, there's been so much. I mean, say what you want about the British and what the colonialists have done over the centuries. I have my own theories about that. I think it's because we all went insane with all the Roman invasions, the Norman invasions, the Vikings, and I think we just went insane and decided that we weren't going to have it happen to us again, so we'll just do it to everybody else. Anyway.
That's another show.
That's another show. But anyway, that's just my theory. But that's completely different. That's completely off topic, I mean. Anyway, what was I saying?
Generations.
Over here, there's been upheaval over the centuries for all those reasons. New ideas coming in. We're a tiny little island off the north coast of Northern Europe. So, you know, we've had lots of people coming in over the centuries with new ideas. And so, you know, it's changed dramatically. And I still feel 100% that, you know, that tribal collective that we take care of each other is the right way to be. It's what we were supposed to be, not, you know, fragmented. And you know,
and I honestly, on one hand, I can understand the people who say that, you know, just because it was always done that way doesn't mean that you have to do it. You know, especially when it takes over your entire life. Especially I don't know how they see this, really, because I haven't asked that kind of question. That would be a good question, because I know that there's some people in my life who see what I'm doing and what I've done as being out of balance from their perspective. And they're the same people who probably would not make the decision that I made to take care of an elderly parent in their home. They're the same people that tend to, you know, live their life the way they want to live it, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just that it's two different ways of looking at life.
Yeah. It's just it's a different perspective. It's a different way of living, and I couldn't imagine living a different way. I couldn't do it. I couldn't not do this. I just couldn't.
Yeah. We've got some comments here that I want to make sure that we at least address. Sonyas saying, I know you said you don't think about it, but what if your parent keeps saying they just don't want to go on anymore on their bad days? My mom is, I don't know what I'm still doing here. You know, how much more do I have to experience before I can go home? Because it's basically what she's saying. And then, yeah, at the beginning, it's hard to hear it. It's hard to hear it. It's not easy.
No, I mean, I've had similar comments of, well, when I'm gone, ...
Right.
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 It was, I was saying, well, where are you going, mother? Where are you going?
Yeah.
I just don't know. She says, you know what I mean? I says, no, I don't. You've seen Psycho, haven't you? It's going to be, you're not going anywhere.
Well, Jill is saying, in the past, this would not have fallen to just one person. Is that what has changed? And you're probably right, Jill.
Probably right, yeah.
You're probably right. It probably would have been, an entire family kind of situation. I know that there's more comments up there. Where'd you go? Scrolling again.
I did see one flash up that's about the sick and elderly being put out, but I didn't get the whole comment on my screen.
All right, so Sonia, Carla Joe is saying, Sonia, my dad's girlfriend, here, I'll show it. My dad's girlfriend tried to get him to help her end her life, and after her daughters finally put her in a nursing home, as dad could no longer take care of her, he asked her if she wanted him in prison. Other than that, he ignored the request, and she would have a better day and dropped the subject until the next time. Yeah, and you have to know that many of the people that we caregive for, they live with an immense amount of pain every single day.
Mm-hmm.
For one reason or another. It could be the nerve damage, it could be arthritis, it could be a lot of different things, and they live with it every single day. It's not, do you have pain today? It's the,
how bad is it today?
How bad is it today? Yeah. And Pamela is saying, how do you suppose soul contracts may be a part of this decision too? Absolutely. I believe that. I think that we probably had an agreement before we even came in, that this is what we're going to do. And intellectually, I don't know about you, Mervyn, but intellectually I say, oh yeah, that's all good. I get that.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah. Intellectually is, it only takes you so far. Intellectual thoughts on it can help you understand certain aspects, but it doesn't help day to day. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help when you say, what would you like for tea today, Mum? I don't know. I don't want to think about it. You decide. Every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't help with the frustration that you feel. It doesn't help with the frustration that they feel.
Yes.
Yes. And you can only intellectualize it on some days. The rest of the day, you're too busy doing it. So, yeah, I agree completely. But that's just a very small aspect of it, really, I think.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And to tell you the truth, because when you say the day-to-day stuff, to me, that is saying everything that we've learned in our life to this point, both educationally, experientially, bringing our spiritual gifts in, learning all about that, the tools, the spiritual tools, and all of it, the whole thing is what we're doing is we're applying it. We are doing it. We're no longer just contemplating it and, running the scenarios through our head and we're far past that. It's the application. And You know, when I think about it that way, again, it's still intellectual, but when I think about it that way, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
I get to learn how to use all of this stuff that I've spent so much of my life learning about and reading about and actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the it's slightly different because although I keep saying I've always been on this path, but for many years I didn't realize I was on this path, and then I didn't realize that I was learning things that I was learning. It was until one day the lock was turned, and then it opened up, and then there was all this, that's a technical term.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
remember that one.
So,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
it,
You
you
know,
don't
and
sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
you don't necessarily have to be studying a particular spiritual path or not. You will be learning what you need
Yep.
along the way, regardless, until you realize that you were actually on a spiritual path,
Yeah.
like I did.
Yeah. Now here's the comment that you had kind of saw flash across. It's Carla Joe. She's saying at one time in history, the elderly and sick were put out in the forest or dropped into the sea to fend for themselves.
That's very likely.
Could be.
Very
Could be.
likely. But again, it's one of those societal things where I feel it still feels to me that you know the that tribal family unit is more natural, and these kind of changes that would have cropped up through history would have been aberrations. Is that the right word? That something shifted in society, and we went off the deep end.
Yeah. Well, and you also have to look at whose history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, whose history is that? Um, and not saying that it hasn't happened. It probably has in someone's history. Some Roman, Greek, I don't know, somebody's history. I'm sure that probably happened. But I don't think that it's happened all the way across the board. You know, so much has changed too. I mean, people didn't live to their 90s, late 90s, for a long time.
No, not often.
You know, I mean, consider in one time in history, old meant in their 60s, 70s. That was old. That was ancient. And so, when you're living with a super elder, it changes how you look at things in the longevity. And honestly, it even changes how I look at my own life and that longevity. I question, do I want to be that old? I really do, because everybody that she's known pretty much is gone. Pretty much.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm going
few.
to live forever.
Well, our soul lives forever, but I don't know if I want to live in this particular body forever. Right? I had to choose. Now, we are at an hour and a half. I think we're going to be kind to the people who are listening. We're going to stop our conversation. And thank you for listening for this long.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to my ranting.
Well, and we have to thank Holly Hagen. Holly Hagen, who meant to be in our audience this evening. Her dad is celebrating a birthday, and they're having a party for him today. And so she wasn't able to be with us. She's going to watch the video show. And I just want to make sure that we touched on her points or her questions. She had a question about when family members want nothing to do with the situation, yet judge you for how you are handling it and the resulting resentment. I think we kind of touched on that. We might want to come back through and do another deeper level of that at some time. Because we did a little bit about the sibling and, come on, you can help a little bit more, or the moving to Spain thing. I have a brother 30 minutes from here. 30 minutes. And unless I call and ask, is there assistance? So, that's a good question. And Holly, we might come back through in another show and take another deeper look at that one. We might actually take your points, your questions, and maybe turn them into the series. How is that? Another one is wanting to enjoy the grace present in the experience, but not being able to because you're too stressed and exhausted. Yeah, the stressed and exhausted. Yeah.
It does happen. It does happen, and you just need to, for myself, accept that it's going to happen from time to time, and not wrap myself up in it.
Yeah.
I know there are times when, Mum's asked me to do something 5 times within 10 minutes, and I'm actually in the middle of doing it when I can feel that frustration welling up, and I'm not shouting at her, but I can feel that slight change in my voice from I'm just on it now, Mum, to something that is quite irritated. Now, Mum possibly hears it sometimes and possibly ignores it sometimes, and possibly doesn't hear it because she's quite deaf as well. But I know it's there, and when I've done it, I just take a breath and just release it, just let that go.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen. You just got to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
but then there's the other sorry.
Go
so
ahead.
there's the other times.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the other times, you know how blessed you are to be doing this and to have this opportunity, and the gifts and blessings and lessons that you are being given to be able to do it. So, just don't wrap yourself up in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, Mervyn, there's 2 things that are pressure relief valves for me. A really good ugly cry. I have one of those and I'm good to go for days and days and days. Pressure relief. The other one is taking a nap. Now, I have Paul, my spouse, here. And so he helps out when he can. And so if I say I'm going to take a nap, there is no such thing as a 10-minute nap. I could sit down and fall asleep and I'm out for an hour. So that's not a nap. Sometimes when he goes with me to go get groceries, right? We just don't go in town. Maybe we'll go 45 minutes away to go grocery shopping. Unfortunately, I will sleep part of the way there and usually all the way home. So, there's ways that we do get that in, but sometimes it's you have to find your comfort zone in that and what works well for you, your pressure release, and hopefully it is not harmful to you, such as overdoing something, as in food.
You've got to. Yeah, there's
recreational drugs.
You could. There's lots of negative pathways for that, which just don't do it. Just don't. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, the hangover isn't worth it because then you have to do it all as a hangover, and that's not good. Number 3, she says, reaching out and finding community resources and support and how real it makes it. That's another show in itself because Then we're talking about what fits your lifestyle, your belief system, and not fitting your life into the community's resources belief system.
Yeah, that's a big old. There's a big old can of worms in there.
Yeah. And then she says that Tracy Civic woman, man, she's a good soul, that one. Because she says that Tracy reminded Holly that at times my mom, Holly's mom, is acting out of her pain body and not to take things to heart. Her real self is still in there, just covered up under layers of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. And the other one we're going to cover in just a second. It's about a caregiver prayer. And so thank you, Holly. And Mervyn and I would like us to take a look at her questions and points and maybe carve out another show to cover those in a deeper level at some point. Or maybe there's other resources within our Star Nations family that we can tap and say, could we come on the show and talk to us about this kind of thing? Like the chakras. I could see Polly Joe coming on a series show like this and talking about chakras for caregivers and that sort of thing. You know, I have ideas. I just have to have time. Oh, listeners, audience, I have something for you. Holly had asked about a prayer for caregivers, and I found one online, and I did post it. I'll post it actually in the closed group and probably even on the public group page after the show. And I'm going to read it, but Mervyn has a really good idea about creating your own prayer. And so I don't know if we're going to talk about it in this show or if we're going to do something special with that. But here's the prayer. It says, God grant me the tender, open-hearted love needed on the caregiving journey, the strength of body, serenity, and of mind, clarity of purpose and willingness of spirit to meet the extraordinary, everyday, constant changes and challenges of caregiving with a smile and good cheer. And please grant me the compassion and courage to choose the right path through the myriad of decisions, making the very best choices for the highest good of my loved one, my family, and myself. Allow me to know that I am enough. I do enough. And by giving of myself at the deepest soul level, caring with diligence for my own health and well-being as a priority, I will experience the beautiful rewards intrinsic to caring for another. Let me seek and find and accept help and loving support from my family, friends, community, professionals for the journey of caring. Let my loved one receive the gift of love from my heart and hands with gratitude and healing according to your will. Bless the hands, hearts, and spirits of both caregiver and receiver in your circle of light and life, and keep us filled with gratitude and grace each day. Amen. Amun. That was the best one I found.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for being with us today, being with us on the show in the chat room, making your comments and sharing with us how things are going in your life as a caregiver or someone that you know in your life as a caregiver. And the thing, Mervyn, is that at some point, we become the receiver in our life, right? At some point.
That's another thing that may come up at some point in the I don't know, in the future. I have my own thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, we can do another round just on that one alone.
Well, yeah, it's
do you have any parting words for our audience?
If you're taking care of somebody, enjoy it as much as you can and learn as much as you can, and recognize all the blessings that you are being given, and see the truth in how strong and powerful you are to actually just be doing this quietly, without fuss, without recognition.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing this for these one, possibly maybe two people. If you have siblings or you're friends with somebody who is in that caregiving role, then check on them and make sure that they're doing okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't wait for them to call, because they probably won't.
No, we don't call. We just do.
We just do it. We just keep going.
Just keep going. We're like the Energizer Bunny.
And mine is about kindness. Kindness to yourself and to the person that you're caregiving for. To be kind to each other. And the other one is that, and this helps a lot, really, and this is my mom's thing. She says that we have to have one good laugh a day, and it's not contrived, it's not planned out. She says we're going to have one good laugh a day, and we do. It could be, in the smallest things, it could be in the biggest things, but, as long as you can laugh at something, it really does help a lot. It helps how you look at what you're doing and finding the joy in it. And as Mervyn said, it is a blessing. And unfortunately, sometimes for me, when somebody tells me that, oh, you're a saint, you're such a blessing. And I'm looking at them and think, if you only saw me 2 hours ago, you wouldn't think I'm a saint when I'm running around trying to get things on the table. And yeah. So be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to the person that you're giving care for. And it does all work out. It really does. It does work out. So with that, thank you everybody for being with us and watching the show as a recorded show. We appreciate that too. We would appreciate it even if you're watching the recorded show, is to please like and share it. I believe that this is going to turn into a series, and so we're going to try to help as many caregivers and receivers of that care as we can. So that will help a lot if you would share and like. So with that, have a good rest of the day and evening. We will see you back again. We'll let you know when Mervyn and I and maybe some other people are going to be joining the series. So with that, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Have a great day.